What's going on, guys? It is Will here, back again, once again, for week 13, episode 3 of the Gridiron Talk podcast. A very strange week 12. And me and Nick last recorded Wednesday. We did not figure that we would be back on this Friday. But with the NFL canceling the Ravens game and all of that happy, good jazz, I'm sure you guys all know about it. We just figured that let's just move it back to 2 days. There's no Thursday game this week, so we figured that was the most appropriate action. I hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving with your friends and family. I hope you guys all stayed safe during these tough times. And like always, I am with my cousin Nick. Nick, how are you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, man, it was great. I had a lot of fun. Ate way too much food and watched a bunch of football. You can't ask for more than that.
Awesome. And honestly, the Thanksgiving games we expected the Texans to win, but we did not expect Washington to absolutely embarrass the Cowboys. That was a real shock to me. But the Texans game, Will Fuller balled out, and now he's suspended. So that's just crazy. But yeah, so let's get right into it. Week 13, we have the first team that can clinch a playoff spot. If you watch football, I mean, kind of guess who it is. But this something different is obviously it's only week 13, and it's kind of strange to see a team that's about to clinch a playoff spot this early. But hey, when you're 11-0, anything's possible, I guess. But we're not talking about them right now. Let's get into our first game of the week. So our first game of the week is, and they just played each other like 2 weeks ago. Me and Nick were just talking about that, is the Saints, who are 9-2, and the Falcons, who are 4-7. Now, let's just start off by saying both of these teams are coming off somewhat impressive wins. More so the Falcons, I would say, because the Falcons beat the Raiders. Sorry, I had a little mind fart. The Raiders. And they completely embarrassed the Raiders. Like, and Nick texted me. He's like, what is going on with the Raiders? I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. It was bad. It was completely unexpected. And the Saints are coming off of a very interesting game with Kendall Hill and the wide receiver playing quarterback. That was completely odd. And hopefully that doesn't happen again. That was very poor judgment on the NFL's part, in my opinion, on, not canceling the game at least one day. But it is what it is. But this is going to be the Taysom Hill show. Honestly, Taysom Hill is not a traditional quarterback as we've seen the last 2 weeks. He is more of like a Lamar Jackson-esque quarterback where he's like a running quarterback. He's not a pocket passer like Breeze. So their offense is completely different with Taysom Hill. And how can not just fantasy managers, but I guess Saints fans or Michael Thomas and Kamara fans rely on their production with Taysom Hill? What do you think, Nick? Because personally, I feel like the Saints are a run-heavy team, more so with Taysom Hill. And MT is just not getting his catches, and Kamara isn't really getting his catches as a running back. What do you think's going on? What do you think's going to happen?
You're 100% right. It's a totally different team with Taysom Hill running at the helm. They're not a pass-first offense. They're not the typical Drew Brees offense that we're used to. If I was Michael Thomas, I would be upset at the lack of targets that I've been getting. And Kamara, too. They might be a run-first team, but Kamara is that receiving back that we know and love. And he's just not getting those receptions that we're accustomed to see from him. And it's tough to see. But having said that, when you are talking about fantasy football, at least, Taysom Hill is a gold mine for getting those rushing touchdowns. And it's actually funny that I say that. That leads right into my boom of the week. I'm going with Taysom Hill in this game. He's a running back playing quarterback, and he's not your traditional passer. We've mentioned that, but he can get you those points. He can get a ton of points. And unfortunately, you still can't play him at tight end, but even at quarterback, he's serviceable there. So I love him there. What about you? Who do you have for boom of the week?
I agree with you 100%, Nick. I have to also go with Taysom Hill. In the last 2 games, he's had 4 rushing touchdowns, which is crazy for a quarterback. Obviously, 4 rushing touchdowns in 2 games is even good for a running back. So a quarterback doing that's even crazier. But not only does he play quarterback, but when Drew Brees comes back, he is arguably the only gadget player in the NFL. He can basically play any position, man. He can play fullback. He can play tight end. He can play quarterback. He could probably line up next to MT in the slot or something like that. I don't know. He can play every position. It's crazy. His versatility is unmatched. And even after Drew Brees comes back, he might still have some fancy value at like a tight end or whatever. But that's just my opinion. He's a very versatile player. He's like a Swiss Army knife, and I don't think there's another player in the NFL that's like him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there is.
No, definitely not.
Who was your bust of the week, Nick, and why?
So my bust, we mentioned it before. I'm going with Michael Thomas. It's just he's not getting the touches that he normally would in the Saints offense. Hill isn't a traditional quarterback throwing him the ball like we would normally see Brees doing. And for that reason, I think his struggles on the season will continue, unfortunately. What about you? Who do you have for bust?
My bust is Matt Ryan. Last time they played the Saints defense, they only allowed 9 points. The Saints did, not the Falcons. The Saints allowed them 9 points, so the Falcons were really struggling on offense. And they only played each other like 2 weeks ago. So, I expect those struggles to continue. I don't think the Falcons will get much going. The Saints defense has really turned it up the last couple of weeks, especially in the last month, the whole month of November. So I think Matt Ryan will get sacked a lot like last time, and they won't be able to generate nothing, especially with Julio Jones questionable to play with hamstring issue.
Yeah, I completely agree with that statement. It's unfortunate. I like Matt Ryan as a player, but I don't see them being able to pull this one out. For that reason, I'm actually picking the Saints to win this game 28-17. I'm excited for it. Who do you have to win?
I have the Saints winning also 27-13. I think the Falcons will do a little bit better on offense, but nothing drastic. They'll score a touchdown, but it's going to basically be the same of 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's go into our next game. Nick, why don't you lead us into the next one?
Yeah. So this week we're talking about the Jaguars here at 1-10 versus the Vikings at 5-6. The Jaguars, they did actually look pretty decent with Mike Glennon there at the helm. I didn't expect to see that, but it was exciting to see for sure. And we got the designation. I think it was today that Dalvin Cook's healthy going into this game. But you always got to worry. Is it lingering? How does he feel? Is there something there? We don't really know if. I mean, everyone's battered at this point. Let's be honest. But we'll see if it affects him at all. And it's a fun one too. We've got two great rookies in this game that are going to be playing. Justin Jefferson out there for the Vikings, who has been lighting it up, and I think is the number one receiver coming out of the draft in a loaded wide receiver draft class. And he's easily filling in for Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. And the phenom James Robinson, that no one even knew his name coming into week one. So it's a fun game of a bunch of young guys. Even though the records don't indicate that these are two good teams, it's fun to see the future being played here in this game, and I'm excited to see it. What do you think about this game? Are you excited for it?
Oh yeah, of course. Coming from me in fantasy, who drafted Saquon first overall, panicking that my season was over at week 2, and I saw James Robinson on the waivers. I was like, oh, who's this rookie from I think like Indiana State or some smaller college that I had never heard of. I didn't even hear about him in college.
Yeah,
and he's the focal point of their offense. I mean, let's be honest. He's been killing it. He's third in the league in rushing, which is crazy. And if he has a somewhat good game this week, he will be over 1,000 yards. And I just looked it up. He's from Illinois State. So, again, a smaller school. I don't think they're even in the FBS. I think they're in the FCS. So he was a no-name coming out of college, and he's definitely the best rookie running back. I mean, I don't think he's fumbled the ball once. He's a somewhat good receiving back. And then in another class with somewhat good running backs like CEH, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, just to name a few, he is definitely the best without a question. I would argue a top 10 running back already, and he's in year 1.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I know it's kind of a hot take, but he's having a great season, man. The Jaguars line is also I guess I don't really know much about the Jaguars, but the line is definitely not like the Raiders.
Yeah.
And he's putting up these numbers, so he's definitely something special. So if you couldn't tell who my boom of the week is, it's obviously James Robinson, the running back for Jacksonville. He's an absolute workhorse. He gets at least, I would say, probably 16 carries a game at the minimum. As I already said, he's the best rookie running back in this previous draft class, and he is the focal point of the Jags offense. I would say him, and to a lesser extent, a DJ Chark, but definitely him. I think Robinson's more focused on. What about you, Nick? Who's your boom for this game?
Yeah, so I'm going with the other rookie, actually, the Justin Jefferson wide receiver fan club. Raise your hand. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. He's the he's the true best wide receiver in this class. He's showing it week in and week out. Maybe it would have been CD Lamb before Dak went down. He was showing some great stuff out there, but look what Justin Jefferson's doing with a mediocre quarterback at best, and that's why I'm excited to see that continue this week.
Cousin shade.
Yeah, and I think he's okay, but I don't think he's worth the money he got. But anyways, that's besides the matter. So sticking to the Vikings offense here, I'm going to lead right into my bust of the week. I'm going with Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook. I think he's a top 5 running back in the league easily. But I think he might not have an injury designation, but I think he's hurt still, and we can kind of see him playing through this injury. He's the workhorse of that offense, and I think he's just kind of limping into the game. I would love to be proved wrong. We'll see, though. But who do you have for bust this week?
No, just real quick. I agree with you. He might be playing hurt. Like, look at Jamal Adams for the Seahawks. You could definitely tell he was playing hurt. He wasn't playing the same. But once he's getting healthy, especially last week against the Eagles, you could see Jamal Adams is definitely a lot healthier than he was a couple weeks ago. But anyway, my bust is Kyle Rudolph. There's too many weapons on the Minnesota's offense. And although Irv Smith Jr., I'm pretty sure is either questionable or he won't play it or ever tight end, Irv Smith is younger and he's just better, I guess. And I could see them trading Rudolph in the offseason. But besides that, my pick is still the Vikings, 30-20. Their offense is just too good for the Jaguars' defense to handle. Yeah. And that's that. Who's your pick, Nick?
Yeah, I'm also going with the Vikings in this game. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think with Mike Lennon at the helm, they're a little bit better of a team. But I'm going with Vikings 21-13, and we'll see. We've been wrong before, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So you lead us off into that next game. Let's see what we got.
All right. Yeah. Next game, we got 2 teams of similar records. They're both 8-3. The Cleveland Browns at 8-3. I never thought I'd ever say that. Let's be honest. And the Titans also at 8-3. Both teams are coming off wins, with the Browns beating the Jaguars in a too close game for the Browns, and the Titans beating the Colts. Absolutely abolished them. They just smashed them into the ground. That was crazy. But the Titans, when they have a statement game last week, they won a big statement game. If they lost that game, they would potentially almost be out of the playoff picture right now, because the Colts would have beat them twice and had the tiebreaker. But now it's very different now with them winning. And this is going to be a fun game to watch for all you old school, old head football guys from the 60s saying, "Oh, I used to watch Jim Brown carry the ball. Yeah. Oh, Barry Sanders." The old school football fans will love this game.
Yeah.
Why is that? This is a run-first team. Both teams. I mean, we got Derrick Henry. Everyone knows who he is. He's almost a household name with him. He's a big dude. He can just run through the whole offense or defense. Then we got on the Browns, they have Nick Chubb, who is kind of like Derrick Henry, but not as major, and Kareem Hunt. And these are 2 heavily run-focused teams, which is something you don't see nowadays in the NFL. Would you like to add on to that, Nick, on their offenses and just the Cleveland Browns against the Tennessee Titans in general?
Yeah, so you're 100% right. It's 2 run-first offenses. Derrick Henry is the best running back, in my opinion, right now in the league, and they are utilizing him perfectly. I think with the Browns, they are definitely a run-first team. They might be one of the best run-first teams in the league right now, too. But I think they're a little bit of a run-first team out of necessity, just because Baker hasn't been playing up to par. And they also lost OBJ, Odell Beckham, early in the season. So they're relying on their 2 workhorses in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, who have been excellent when available. Both of them have been excellent all season. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what's going on there. But it's definitely going to be a run-first game and not much passing, in my opinion.
And before we get –
go ahead. No. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, before we get into our booms and busts, I would just like to say, I think the Cleveland Browns should trade Odell Beckham Jr. Him and Baker Mayfield just don't mix.
Yeah.
They just don't click. And I think the Browns should trade him to a team that needs a receiver like the Patriots or the Packers. That'd be crazy, him and Devontae Adams. But I think Odell Beckham should definitely get traded out of there. They're just not using him to his potential, man, which sucks. But it is what it is.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree completely. It's unfortunate, and it's looking like the Giants won that trade right now, but we'll see. Maybe they can make something out of Odell, turn him for something else. But yeah, like I said, we'll see. But moving on to my boom of the week, I'm going with the obvious and easy choice, rest of season. When we talk about the Titans, more than likely not, I'm going to be choosing Derrick Henry for my boom of the week. He has the matchups going forward. He's a freak athlete. He's just fun to watch. He's amazing. He's my boom of the week. Who do you have?
I have another Titans player, but not Derrick Henry. I have A.J. Brown, who is last year's rookie class is also turning out to be pretty good with Metcalf, McLaurin, and A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
He had a great game against the Colts. He had 2 touchdowns, a receiving touchdown, and he returned the onside kick for a touchdown, which is something you don't see every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Browns have a somewhat weak secondary. Denzel Ward's pretty good, but besides him, their secondary definitely is not their focal point of their defense. I think that if they do abandon the run to an extent and they pass the ball, he will be the number one man on the field. He might be the best receiver on the field, period, even including the Browns. He is just a really underrated receiver, and Tannehill, he's definitely Tannehill's number one target when he throws the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. We'll see what happens there. I'm excited, though, to see what A.J. Brown can do. I heard there might be an injury designation on him, but we'll see if he plays. I think he will. Usually these things, when they're questionable, more times than not, they end up playing. But that leads me right into my bust of the week. I'm actually going with Baker Mayfield in this game. It's no surprise. Anyone who's listened the last few weeks knows I hate Baker Mayfield. I think he's a terrible quarterback. I don't like what he does. He is a horribly inaccurate quarterback, and it starts with his footwork. That's why he's an inaccurate quarterback. Watch him throw the ball. It's painful. It's like running your fingernails down a chalkboard. He doesn't know what he's doing with his feet. And I think we're going to see that come to a head here this week. Who do you have for bust?
I have Kareem Hunt, who I'm picking him mainly because he splits carries with Nick Chubb, and he had a bad game last week. But and Chubb is definitely the better running back of the two. And I feel like if they had to say, "Oh, we need a handoff, who are we going to give it to?" They're going to prioritize Chubb over Kareem Hunt. Not saying he's bad, but it's just Nick Chubb is definitely better than him. That's all.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Who is your pick to win this game, Nick, and why?
I'm going with the Titans. Plain and simple Titans, 31-24. What about you?
I'm also going with the Titans, 28-24. It's going to be a good game to watch regardless, though, who wins this game. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited for it. A lot of running football, which in a league that has turned to passing. So let's move on to the next game. We've got the Lions at 4-7 versus the Bears at 5-6. These two teams, they're definitely struggling right now. You know, both of them are desperate for a win. They're in the playoff hunt, though. Still, you know, it's surprising to see teams. Some of these teams with these bad records that are still in the playoff hunt surprises me. The Bears are very surprising. They're like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde out there. You know, they started the season, I think 5-1. I think it was 5-1. Mm-hmm. They're now 5-6. So you know, it's weird to see these two teams struggle like they are right now. But you know, one of them, hopefully they can turn it around and figure it out and make some moves here. What about you? You got anything to add to that?
Oh yeah, I would like to say that hopefully what the Lions do is kind of like what happened with the Texans. They fired Bill O'Brien and their team is kind of getting hot when they need to be, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to them. They fired Matt Patricia after getting embarrassed on Thanksgiving. And hopefully that kind of like does like a 180 for the Lions, you know? And it sucks that Kenny Galladay's been hurt and Danny Amendola has also been hurt. And Stafford doesn't have his weapons. You know, 2 of his best receivers aren't playing. But on the other side, we have the Bears who, like you said, Nick, they like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde us. They were 5-1. They were at 1 point leading the division over Green Bay, and then I don't even know what happened. They've just
Yeah.
lost 5 in a row, and you could either say that it's Nick Foles' fault. You could say it's his fault. Or Matt Nagy's fault. Personally, I think it's Matt Nagy's fault. I don't think he can. He's a very good play caller, but it is what it is, and the Bears are wasting Allen Robinson's career, in my opinion. Not a good move to sign by him to Chicago,
He
and
looks
that's leading
so
to my
miserable
opinion.
out there. He looks so sad.
He does. He looks pissed all the time. He doesn't even look happy, which sucks.
Yep.
But speaking of Allen Robinson, like I was saying, he is my boom of the week. He's a very talented wide receiver. If you're a somewhat casual football fan and you don't know who Allen Robinson is and you don't consider like you're just like, oh, he's pretty good. No, Allen Robinson is arguably top 5. He's very, very good.
Yeah.
He's put up these poor numbers with Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, and Blake Bortles, and he's putting up like numbers that like Adam Thielen, just for example, puts up. So if he got like Tom Brady or like Mahomes or any good quarterback, Allen Robinson would be a real threat. He is so gifted and talented, and he needs to get out of Chicago as soon as possible. What about you, Nick?
100% agree. He's my boom of the week. He's awesome. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He has been since his days in Jacksonville. He's the silver lining for that poor Bears offense. Even when they can't get it done, he still gets it done somehow. Him and I don't know his first name, the rookie Mooney, I think Darnell Mooney, something like that.
Oh, yeah, Darnell Mooney, yep.
Yeah, they both look like excellent receivers. I feel bad for Allen Robinson, but he always gets his, and I think that doesn't stop here. He's going to keep going. But so, going to the other side of the ball now, my pick for bust of the week, I'm actually going with Matt Stafford. The Bears defense, they're still pretty good despite being 5-6. They're not the same Bears defense that they were the years past, but they're still good enough. I think that's why they had those 5 wins, is that defense. Khalil Mack is having a pretty good year. And I think that they're going to get the best of Matt Stafford, and I don't think he's going to be able to put up the same numbers that we're used to year in and year out from Stafford. But we'll see. So who do you have for bust?
My bust is the quarterback on the other side, Mitchell Trubisky. I'm pretty sure he's going to start over Nick Foles, but if he doesn't, then Nick Foles will be my bust. The Chicago quarterback, I should have put this. Both are not really good, but Mitch Trubisky and focus he was drafted 2nd overall ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. So if you guys didn't know that, yes, he was, and that's crazy. The Bears GM should be fired for that mistake, that he passed up on those two for Mitchell Trubisky. And I like North Carolina football. He's from North Carolina. He was pretty good. But looking back, it's like, man, was he really worth the 2nd overall pick? And he has these weapons too. He has A-Rob, like we said, and Jimmy Graham, he's been actually having a pretty good year after playing in Green Bay and Seattle.
Yeah.
But my point being is that Mitchell Trubisky is just not the move, and he should not have been drafted at 2nd. So that's why he's my bust.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done. Either quarterback I don't think they're going to be able to get it done. Speaking of that, I'm actually going to pick the Bears, though, to win this game 20-13. Like I said, I don't think that they have a good quarterback, the Bears, but I think their defense is strong enough to carry them, and maybe we'll see a defensive touchdown in this game. Who knows? I mean, the Lions are really struggling. Maybe they'll turn it around with firing of Matt Patricia. We'll see. But I think it's the Bears 20-13. What about you?
I also have the Bears winning in the defensive game 17-10. As bad as the Bears offense is like you said, Nick, their 5 wins are mainly in the focus of their defense. So like I said, 17-10, the Bears win in a defensive game. And like you said, maybe we'll see a defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
All right. Getting into our next game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Miami Dolphins. The Bengals are 2-8-1, and the Dolphins are 7-4. So where do we start with this one? The Bengals almost beat the Giants last week. As a Giants fan, that was crazy. I was kind of worried there for a second, but they're still really bad. Even without Joe Burrow, they're still really bad. And the Dolphins, we don't know what's going on if they're going to go with Fitzpatrick or Tua Tagovailoa. But the Dolphins have been winning regardless. I know they only beat the Jets, but I mean, a win's a win, in the NFL. It doesn't really matter. And the Dolphins have really been proving people wrong. They were when you look at the preseason standings of the AFC East, it was really the Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets,
Mm-hmm.
and now how they might beat the Bills. They may be the division winners. Who knows? I don't think that'll happen, but it's definitely a possibility. So, what are your thoughts on this game, Nick, with the Bengals against the Miami Dolphins?
Look, I have grown to love the Miami Dolphins this season. They're so fun. It's fun to see a team that's been historically bad for years show up, ball out, compete every game, have, you know, a
A good
good
coach.
core, a good coach. Everything just looks right out there. They know what they're doing, and it's fun to see. And it doesn't matter who plays quarterback out there. If it's Tua, if it's Fitz, I'm excited to see what these two teams can do. But I'm excited to see the Dolphins win and roll in this game. I think they're the team to beat in this game. One of the hottest teams on the season right now, and I think that's going to continue here in this game. And for me, that leads to my boom. It doesn't matter if it's Tua or Fitz. I'm going with the quarterback. Whoever's playing quarterback is going to be the boom of this game. The Bengals defense is weak, and we're going to see a lot of, Devontae Parker in this game. Preston Williams, I think his name is. There's
He's out for the season, but yeah,
I didn't know. You didn't hear that.
yeah.
Mike, we're going to see a lot of Mike Gesicki. There's some excellent receivers that are going to be out there, and I think that our quarterback is going to thrive in this game. Who do you have for boom?
My boom is Mike Gesicki, the tight end for the Dolphins. He, unlike Devontae Parker, where I feel like he does better with Fitzpatrick at the helm other than Tua, he thrives either or. His production hasn't really declined with Tua than Fitzpatrick. You know what I mean? I know last week you said that when you picked Devontae Parker for your boom, you said that he was Fitz's number one target, which is true. But like I'm saying, is that Gesicki has just been that consistently he's like the safety valve. You know what I mean? Just drop it off to him. He's a pretty good tight end, very underrated.
Yeah.
And like you said, Nick, against a poor defense, we could see a breakout game for him. He could be a top 5 fantasy scoring tight end this week, personally, in my opinion.
Yep.
Who's your bust and why in this game?
So I'm going with Giovanni Bernard. He was pretty much non-existent last week against the Giants defense. And the Dolphins defense is probably just as good. They're right on par with the Giants, in my opinion. Two very good defenses. And I think that Giovanni Bernard's struggles are going to continue in this game. The quarterback for the Bengals has not been able to get it going. He's only had one start under his belt, but he didn't look good. And I don't see Giovanni Bernard, who is a pass catching back, getting many opportunities in this game. So who do you have for bust?
My bust is Tyler Boyd, who struggled last week against the Giants secondary. And also the Dolphins secondary is definitely better than the Giants. He'll have either Xavier Howard or Byron Jones on him, and they're just completely locked down corners. So if he struggled against James Bradbury, he will struggle against, not saying Bradbury is bad, I'm just saying that he struggled with Bradbury, he's going to struggle with Howard and or Jones.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Nick, who is your pick to win this game and why?
I don't think it's any surprise. I'm going Dolphins in this one, 27-17. Who do you got?
I also have the Dolphins winning 20-7. I think their defense will just completely shut down Brandon Allen and the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Dolphins season will continue and they'll keep on thriving.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're going to move right on to the next game. Indianapolis Colts at 7-4 and the Houston Texans at 4-7. The Colts are coming off a embarrassing loss in a game that I thought was going to be low scoring. And the Deshaun Watson right now is putting up elite numbers. He would be in the consideration for MVP for me if he still had Will Fuller moving forward. I think him losing Will Fuller is really detrimental to him. I think he's still good enough to figure it out, and I think he will figure it out. Still has Brandon Cooks, Kuti. He's got options, but that does hurt, and I don't think anyone can tell you otherwise. Losing Will Fuller to suspension rest of the season, it definitely hurts. But we'll see what happens moving forward. What do you think about this game?
Oh yeah, I think this is going to be a very good game. Obviously, a division matchup with in the AFC South, and the Texans definitely can still make a playoff run. Their chances are not on their side, but they could definitely still do it. You know, and
Yeah,
the Colts are if they lose again, they might be in I don't want to say lose their playoff spot, but they need to win. You know what I mean? Like it's like crunch time. You got the Raiders coming up behind them. The Browns are now doing well. The Ravens, so the Colts need to start winning. And I know they just beat the Packers, but last week's game was a pretty big game against the Titans, and they couldn't come through. And before we get into our booms and busts, I do agree with it. Your whole thing about Deshaun Watson hurt and Fuller will hurt a lot. And he's a free agent next year, so what's he going to do? Is he going to leave town? And J.J.
he's
Watt also wants to also leave, so he's already said he wants to get traded.
yeah. No, it's unfortunate. I think both of them will leave, and we're going to see the Texans in full-on rebuild mode with a great quarterback, but no one around him. It's a shame to see, but that's what I think is going to happen. But before we get that far into the future, just with this game, I think Deshaun Watson still has enough to be the boom of the week. He's been elite the last few weeks, and I know that he's losing his number one target, but Brandon Cooks has been excellent the last few weeks as well. So maybe that just means more targets for him. Who knows? Maybe Kuti will step up. We'll see. But I still think Deshaun is the boom of the week. Who do you have for boom?
My original boom was Will Fuller, but then he obviously got suspended for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So my current boom, my new boom is Naheem Hines. With Jonathan Taylor most likely out for the Colts, he is definitely a pretty solid running back for the Colts. He's a pass catching back, kind of like Giovanni Bernard and Kamara. To a lesser extent, he's obviously not at Kamara's level, but he's like a pass catching back. And Houston does have a pretty poor run defense, and he had a pretty good game last week against the Titans. Again, one of the few bright spots for the Colts, him and T.Y. Hilton actually had the first good game of the season. So with that being said, I think Hines will continue his production with Taylor out against the Colts' really good offensive line. Who's your boss, Nick?
Yeah, so for me, the bust in this game, I'm going with Phillip Rivers. The defense has carried this team all season. The offense has struggled. I think he's over the hill. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks to play in the
This
last.
generation.
And, we'll see what happens. But I think that Phillip is done. Uh, who do you have for bust?
My bust is Brandon Cooks, and like you said, he's been coming off of a couple good games, but the Colts secondary is really good, especially with Xavier Rhodes. He's been having a good year after he's been kind of slowly declining. He's been doing pretty well, and the whole Colts defense and in general is just very good, from the linebackers to the linemen, the defensive linemen, to the secondary. This is a very good defense, and I think Brandon Cooks will struggle to create separation and get open. But it could happen. He's a pretty good receiver. He's very talented and very underrated, but who knows?
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll see what happens. Originally, when I made this pick, Will Fuller was still part of the team. However, I'm still going to stick with the Texans here, 17-10. I think they'll be able to get enough done and pull off this low-scoring game. Who do you have to win?
I also have the Colts winning in another low-scoring game, 17-13. I think their defense will stifle the Texans, and the Colts' offense will just be good enough to win this game for them, like they've been doing all season.
Fair.
All right, let's get into our next game. The Las Vegas Raiders, who are coming off a very embarrassing defeat. I bet Coach Gruden was mad. Um, it was embarrassing, man. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
The
it
Las
was.
Vegas Raiders at 6-5 now against the Jets, who are 11-0. I mean, 0-11. The Jets and the Raiders. This is a very one-sided game. But last year, the Jets did beat the Raiders, which is kind of weird. And the Raiders were in a very similar situation. The Raiders were like potentially fighting for that last playoff spot, and the Jets beat them. So they kind of threw their whole season away because they lost to the Jets. But anyway, Vegas needs to bounce back after that embarrassing defeat to Atlanta. As we already mentioned with the Falcons earlier, they got completely blown out. But the good news is they were playing the right team to bounce back. Stephen A. Smith said that, or maybe it was Max Kellerman. Someone said on ESPN, they said, if you need a win, this is the Jets. You know what I mean? If you want a good win, you need to bounce back. This is the team you need to play. The Jets are obviously horrible. They're a disgrace. It makes me feel bad that the Giants share a stadium with them. They're awful. Plain and simple. No question. What do you have to add on that, Nick, about the Jets and the Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders, it definitely was embarrassing. There's no doubt about it. And I think this is as good a game for them to bounce back and show that they are still a very good team. We can't forget what they did last week, I guess 2 weeks now, against the 49ers, Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Yeah, so it's weird that they go from being in that kind of a game to getting absolutely blown out last week. But look, like I said, this is the game for them to get back on track. And not just the team, but also Derek Carr to get back on track. And for that reason, he is my boom this week. He's going to get back on track. He's going to show everyone that he's a good quarterback. He's had a pretty good season overall. And I think that now is the time for him to show the rest of the world that he is a good quarterback. Who do you have here for boom of the week?
My boom is Darren Waller. He's a very good tight end, very underrated. He's also kind of like the whole Raiders offense, coming off a very rough week against Atlanta. And kind of like what you said, this is no better game. This is a great game for him to bounce back in against the weak Jets team. And it couldn't be any better for the Raiders in this case. Who's your bust, Nick, and why in this game?
So originally I had Josh Jacobs as my bust. The running backs haven't been as good as I had hoped against the Jets the last few weeks. But I'm actually going to go with Devontae Booker here, who is normally the RB2 in that offense, the pass catcher. But I haven't liked what I've seen out of him. I don't think he's done enough to solidify the number 2 role. And if he's going to be the number 1 role, I still don't see enough from him against a underrated front seven. I guess you could say underrated front seven in the Jets, at least overperforming, maybe you could say. Who do you have for bust?
Oh, no, yeah, I agree with you. It's just real quick. The Jets front seven, like you said, is very underrated because they actually have been doing pretty well against stopping the run fantasy-wise. Yeah. I don't know about like I said, coming from a fantasy perspective, you think they'd be averaging like 20 points, but that's not the case. So, like you said, maybe they're just playing poor running backs, or who knows. But I do agree with you on that statement, though.
Yeah.
But my bust is Sam Darnold for the Jets. The Jets' offense is just awful. Like I feel like me and Nick are beating a dead horse when we talk about the Jets and how bad they are. We don't mean to beat the dead horse, but like we literally can't find any bright spots on their offense. Like we got Jamison Crowder, I guess Brashard Perryman, but like that's literally it. Like You know what I mean? Like their tight end Chris Herndon, like he's nothing special. Then you got Frank Gore, who's good, but he's old. And then their defense, they trade their best player away in the offseason. Then it's like there's literally nothing to talk about like with the Jets. So I'm sorry if we sound like we're beating a dead horse when we talk about the Jets. But the main point with Sam Darnold is that we both could see him getting traded in the offseason, especially if they want to pick up T. Lawrence or Justin Fields, maybe to a team that, like the Saints, just for example, if what's his name, Breeze retires. But definitely be on the radar for Sam Darnold getting traded, kind of like a Josh Rosen-esque situation that happened with Arizona.
Yeah.
Who is your pick to win this week, Nick, and why?
I'm going with the Raiders in this game, 20-10. I think they're going to bounce back and show the rest of the league that they're not as bad as they played last week. And I think they're going to show everyone that they're better than that. Who do you have?
My pick is also the Raiders. I have them winning 27-10. Like Nick said, I think Vegas will bounce back quite well against the Jets. And there's, like we said before, there's no better team to play than the New York Jets if you need to win desperately.
Yeah.
So there's that. Nick, why don't you lead us into our next game, which is also our favorite team. It's the New York Giants.
Yeah.
I also love the Giants game this week. It's who they're playing.
Yep. So the Giants at 4-7 are playing the Seahawks at 8-3. These two teams, believe it or not, are division leaders. and they're coming off big wins. The Giants are hot right now. They've won 3 in a row. We're going to see if they can make it 4 against a very good Seattle team. There's some question marks for the Giants, though. Is Danny Dimes going to play? Is it going to be Colt McCoy? I think it's going to be Colt McCoy, but it's good to see that Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, he looks like he dodged a major bullet with his hamstring. Yeah, it looked kind of bad, especially when he came back out there, but then he had to leave again. But I think he will be back out there next week. But it should be a good game just because the Giants have been very competitive all season. They've only gotten beat by more than 7, I think once, maybe twice on the season.
Twice.
So we'll see a very good game out here, no matter what the score is. What do you have to add to this game?
Oh yeah, like Nick said, Daniel Jones got extremely lucky with the hamstring. He only basically cramped it. Giants fans like me and Nick could not be any happier. I thought it would be a pretty bad injury. But with that being said, the Giants defense is very good, or very underrated, to say the least. We got James Bradbury, who is a lockdown corner. We got Logan Ryan, Xavier McKinney. We just got a lot of good pieces that make this defense underrated. Not really household names, but trust me, the Giants defense is pretty good. With that being said, though, the Seahawks offense, on the other hand, is also very good. It's going to be – it's insane. You got Chris Carson, you got Russell Wilson, you got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, David Moore. And I know he's not coming back this week, but Josh Gordon did get reinstated. So when Josh Gordon comes back, those are 4 really good wide receivers. With that being said, the flip side of it is also – like the Seahawks defense is very good – or very poor, my fault. Defense is very poor, and the Giants offense is definitely – going to be poor with Colt McCoy riding the helm.
Yeah.
And that leads right into my boom. My boom is Tyler Lockett. With DK Metcalf and Bradbury, I feel like Bradbury will lock up on Metcalf, or at least try to. I think Tyler Lockett will be open a lot because the Giants cornerback CB2, the cornerback 2, is Isaac Yiadom, who is awful. Coming from a Giants fan, he's so bad. He's almost lost us games. He's awful, and Tyler Lockett will torch us with Bradbury. And if Bradbury's on Lockett, then it'd be DK Metcalf. Basically, whoever James Bradbury isn't guarding. That's my boom. Who's your boom, Nick?
I'm actually going with Wayne Gallman, the Giants running back. He's looked solid since he's filled in for Devontae Freeman. I think he's proven that he's a very good NFL back, and I think he can go out there like for years to come and be Saquon's RB2, third down back, the big bruiser. And I think he's solidified himself in that role since Saquon's gone down this season. So he's my boom. Now my bust, staying on the same side of the ball with the same team, I'm actually going with Colt McCoy. I think he's going to start over Danny Dimes, and this season, the Giants have been heavily reliant on Daniel Jones. And I think the fact that Colt McCoy is going to be out there instead of him, we're going to see just how reliant on Daniel Jones we were. We like to make fun of Daniel Jones and give him crap for not having a great statistical season. But I think after this game, we're really going to appreciate Daniel Jones that much more. Who do you have for bust?
I agree. Even my bust is also Colt McCoy. Even against a poor defense, Colt McCoy is just average, and that's being nice.
Yeah.
He's just not good. And even though the Seahawks defense sucks, I mean, if there's one game they'll clamp up, it'll be this game against him. With that being said, like you said, Nick, we do kind of rely on Daniel Jones, especially with like read option plays. He is low key a dual threat quarterback, and Colt McCoy obviously isn't.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, my pick to win the game is the Seahawks 24-16. Like you said, Nick, the Giants have kept it close in all but like 2 games this year, and that trend will continue. 24-16, like I said, I got Seattle winning. What about you?
Yeah, it pains me to say it, but I also have Seattle winning this game 20-13. I think they will keep it close. They'll be competitive, and I think the future is bright for the Giants, but they don't pull this one out. So the next game we've got is a exciting one. Will talk us into it. The Rams and Cardinals. What do you got?
What do I got, man? This is This is a fun game.
Yeah,
I
it
really
is.
like the teams. The Rams are 7-4. The Cardinals are 6-5, and the Cardinals came off a surprising defeat. Both of these teams actually came off surprising defeats. With the Cardinals losing to New England, and my boy Cam Newton. I know Nick, you don't like him. Comeback Player of the Year. Let's get it. And the Rams lost to the San Francisco 39ers, as I call them, with everyone being out. Although Richard
like
Sherman
that.
did come back. Richard Sherman did come back, and he actually did have a pretty good game, Sherman. But the main point is that both of these teams are definitely still in the division hunt, with the Seahawks only a game behind the Cardinals, or the Rams, I mean, my bad, and 2 games behind the Cardinals. The Seahawks are ahead of them. My fault. Let me just restate that. The Seahawks are only a game ahead of the Rams and 2 games ahead of the Cardinals. There we go. But the wild card race is slipping for the Cardinals. Not so much the Rams, because they have the tiebreaker over Tampa Bay, but for the Cardinals it is. And especially if the Vikings win this week and they lose, I don't know who has a tiebreaker there, but it's going to be a close game. Like that 7th seed it's going to be a battle for it. Let's just say that right now.
Yeah.
With that being said, the Cardinals need a win to stay alive, and in general, if they want their playoff hopes to stay alive, not just in the NFC West, just a wild card race in general, they need to win this game. And we are going to see, in my opinion, the best receiver going against the best corner in DeAndre Hopkins versus Jalen Ramsey. It's going to be a fun game to watch. What do you think about this, Nick? Jalen Ramsey, DeAndre Hopkins, Cardinals, Rams. What do you think's going to happen in this game?
Yeah, I wouldn't want any other matchup to watch. It's exciting for sure. Jalen Ramsey is probably the best cornerback, and Hopkins is a top 3 receiver in my opinion. Hopkins needs a bounce back. He's had a rough couple weeks, but I don't think that's 100% his fault. I think a lot of that lies on Kyler Murray's throwing shoulder, which has been hurt. But for me, that leads to my boom. I actually think Kyler Murray is going to be the boom player of the week. There is no injury designation on him going into this game. He needs a bounce back game, and I think he's going to get it. We know the Rams are a good defense, but the Cardinals offense is also very good, and we've seen it earlier in the season, and I think that we're going to see it again here. Who do you have for boom?
My boom is Jared Goff, and he had a rough game against 49ers last week. But besides that, like you said, I think 2 weeks ago when they played the Buccaneers, he's had a very under-the-radar season. He's actually had a pretty good year. So I think that despite his struggles last week, he'll get out of the slump quickly, and he will beat the Cardinals. And with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods at home, he'll bounce back somewhat easily. Who is your bust, Nick, for this game, and why?
I could see you being right, but I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp as my bust this week. He had a rough week last week, and I could see that continuing. I like Cooper Kupp. I like Jared Goff. I don't think the Cardinals' defense is spectacular. I do like Budda Baker. I do like what they're doing out there, and I think they're gonna stop Cooper Kupp this week. We'll see, but who knows? Who do you have for bust?
My bust is DeAndre Hopkins. Simple. Jalen Ramsey's going to lock him up. It's going to be fun to watch, though. However, it's going to be very fun to watch. But I just think Jalen Ramsey will get the better of D-Hop in a very good wide receiver versus cornerback battle. If you like to watch those, this is definitely the game of the week to watch in that regard.
Yep.
Without a question. Leading into our picks.
Oh yeah.
Who do you think will win? You go ahead, Nick. You had me lead into it, so you finish this one out for me, man.
I was excited.
You're excited for what?
I was excited to say who I think is going to win this game. I love the Arizona Cardinals. They're probably going into the season. They were my second favorite team. Most of that has to do with the fact that I have Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins in several of my pay leagues. I need them to come back. So I think they will, and I think they're going to win 21-14. Who do you think is going to win?
Well, hopefully you're not betting too much money on this, Nicholas, because I got the Rams winning 27-21, and my boy Jalen Ramsey, as Stephen A. said, them boys in LA, they know how to ball out. Those brevas, that's what he says, the brevas. Jalen Ramsey. 27-21, DeAndre Hopkins and the whole entire Cardinals offense will get stumped by Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. We didn't even talk about Aaron Donald, man. Talking about Jalen Ramsey, and then Aaron Donald is like, oh yeah, basically the best pass
that guy.
in the NFL. What about me? Yeah, that guy. But with that being said, like I said, 27-21, the LA Rams take this one over Arizona.
Okay, I see how it is.
So with our next one, look at this one. Nick is doing this one. Nick is going to talk about his favorite quarterback, Cam Newton, and the New England Patriots. Why don't you tell us about this one, Nick? They're playing the LA Chargers. Go right ahead. Let's see how you feel about Cam Newton.
I don't know who I hate more, Cam Newton or Baker Mayfield, but I tell you what, I don't like either of them, that's for sure. Now, going into this game, we got the Patriots at 5-6 and the Chargers at 3-8. I don't like Cam Newton. I don't like the Patriots, but I am warming up to the fact that they're not a horrible team. I don't think they're very good, but I don't think they're horrible. The Patriots, they're desperate for a win to stay alive in the AFC playoff hunt. I think there's a possibility that Anthony Lynn gets fired in this game, especially due to that bad play calling at the end of the last week's game. I don't know if you saw that, but that was just awful.
Oh, yeah. I saw the QB draw, man. They did a QB draw, and they set up for pass blocking, so they went backwards, and Herbert fell into the line. I was like, what did I just watch?
that was pretty bad. It's going to be a defensive game. I'm excited for the Chargers because I am a big Justin Herbert fan, and I'm also glad to see Austin Eckler back in the mix. Having said that, I don't know. I guess the Patriots are an okay team this year.
That's because of Cam Newton.
Yeah. Who do you have for bust? Or I'm sorry, boom in this game?
My boom is actually not Cam Newton as much as I love him.
Mm-hmm.
My boom is the Patriots defense. Simple. They're going against a rookie quarterback, and this defense has three Pro Bowl caliber players on it with Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, who actually is tied for the interception, leading the league in interceptions, and to a lesser extent, Devin McCourty, who's a solid free safety. But I feel like as good as Herbert is, he's still a rookie. He still makes rookie mistakes, and this game will just show them to the football world and people in general. He's not perfect.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick? Who's your bust? Or boom, excuse me.
Boom, I'm going with Damian Harris in this game. He's been coming into his own recently, and they have been really lacking a good running back for a long time now. It's been running back by committee, going like 4 deep at times. And I think finally they have one. They have Damian Harris, who's shown that he's better than pretty much anyone that's been there in a while. I feel bad for Sony Michel fans, but I think Damian Harris is the answer moving forward. We'll see, but I like him moving forward. Who do you have for bust in this game?
Yeah, I agree with you with Damian Harris. He definitely is one of the few bright spots on New England's subpar at best offense.
Mm-hmm.
But my bust for this week is Justin Herbert. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert. I love his game. I don't like his haircut, but I do like his. I do like the way he plays football. He's a very good quarterback, potentially the best in the draft, and definitely the offensive rookie of the year. However, like I said with the Patriots, for my boom for the Patriots defense, he still is a rookie, and he is, no matter how good he is, he still makes rookie mistakes. You saw that when Mahomes had that his first year starting, where he was technically a rookie, I guess. You know what I mean? It was his first season starting. He still made a lot of mistakes, even though he was a rookie, the MVP. So with that being said, he'll make some mistakes on a good secondary, but that's not to take away credit from the excellent season he's having so far, though. He's definitely the best quarterback so far in the draft.
Yeah, I agree.
What about your Nick? Who was your bust this week and why?
So my bust for this week, I'm actually going with Keenan Allen. He has been awesome all season. He's been a staple for many fantasy owners, and he's still just as good. The only thing is that Austin Eckler's back, and a lot of those targets that Keenan Allen was getting, they're going to go to Austin Eckler. We saw Eckler get targeted, I think, 24, 26 times between runs, attempts, and targets in his first game back, which is insane, especially coming back from a hamstring injury. So I could easily see Keenan Allen's share drop considerably in this game and moving forward rest of the season, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong. It's happened before, but we'll see. So who do you have to win this game?
I got the Patriots winning 20-17 in a similar fashion to did last week with Nick Folk kicking a game-winning field goal from like 50 yards. But yeah, 20-17 Patriots and Cam Newton, he's going to ball out, Nick. I'm telling you. This is the game.
You could be right. You very possibly could be right. I also have the Patriots winning this game. I hate to say it. 21-17. 3 rushing touchdowns by Cam Newton with 400 yards. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I could see them winning. So we'll see.
By JB said.
Yeah. I don't like the Patriots.
Going into our final game that's not prime time, because this week we have 4 because of the NFL scheduling. We have the Philadelphia Steagles, or the Eagles, the Beagles, the Trash Cans against the Packers. Who are the Eagles are 3-7-1, and the Packers are 8-3. The Eagles are terrible. They're in disarray. Carson Wentz is like an XFL quarterback out there. He is awful. I know Dan Orlovsky on ESPN he always comes up with these excuses that Carson Wentz is still good, like fumbles aren't turnovers or the receivers can't run routes. Like eventually, you just have to say he's not good anymore. And that's what's happening. But with that being said, the Eagles are still in the playoff hunt because the division's so bad. They only are half a game behind Washington and the Giants. And maybe it's time to move to Jalen Hurts. Why not give him a shot? What do you have to lose, honestly? You know what I mean? I mean, yes, you're still in contention for the playoffs, but like if you made the playoffs at like let's say 6-9-1, what do you gain from that? Like you get a first round exit. It's not like the Eagles have a deep chance. They're not like hot like the Washington is in the Giants. You know what I mean? Like they could potentially maybe upset a team. The Eagles are in the complete opposite position. And lastly, before we get into our booms, is Doug Peterson potentially on the hot seat? The Super Bowl winning coach hasn't really made the best decisions this year when it comes to coaching the Eagles. Give us your thoughts on this, Nick, with Jalen Hurts or Doug Peterson, and just this game in general. What do you have to add on to what I just said?
Yeah, when this season or before this season in the offseason during the draft, when the Eagles took Jalen Hurts, I was very surprised. I thought that Carson Wentz was the franchise quarterback, and why did they choose, Jalen Hurts? Watching them now, I could easily see Jalen Hurts starting moving forward. Wentz has looked awful, and he always does. I mean, he hasn't been good since his MVP caliber season, which he got hurt at the end of, by the way. It's just, I don't think he's the quarterback, and I could see them easily moving on and going to Hurts. And to mention the Packers, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Packers. They look awesome. They look great. Speaking of the Packers, my boom of the week, I'm going Aaron Rodgers. It's an easy one. He's in MVP form. Anyone who didn't pick him, he's making you regret it. He feels the heat just like Wentz from Hurts with love. I don't know. He's showing everyone that he's good and he's going to be good for a while. So who do you have for boom in this game?
My boom is Davante Adams. We saw what DK Metcalf did to the Eagles defense, mainly the secondary. And I expect Davante Adams, who, as much as I love DK Metcalf, he's better than him. Davante Adams is better than DK. Yeah. So I expect Davante to do basically the same thing, but better. And also, Darius Slay, you're an absolute clown. If you did not see his press conference, he was like, yeah, I didn't need no help on DK Metcalf. Like, what the hell's the matter with you? Next question. I was like, are you dumb? Like, he literally torched you the whole game. So you're trying to tell me that you clamped up DK Metcalf? Okay, bud. It was funny. If you didn't just Google it or YouTube it, Darius Slay press conference. He literally is talking about how he didn't need help with DK. I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's like the Kermit meme where he's like sipping the tea. He's like, okay, whatever, Mm-hmm. So that's what I thought Darius Slay. If DK can torch him, the Adams will do even better. Who is your bust for this game, Nick, and why?
I'm just saying the Philly quarterback is the bust. I don't know if it's going to be Wentz or Hurts. I think Hurts might have better potential than Wentz. We don't know. We haven't seen enough from him. I didn't like him in college, but I mean, it's a completely different game from college. Maybe he'll thrive here in the NFL. But whoever the quarterback is, they're going to bust in this game. What do you have? Who's your bust?
My bust is Dallas Goddard, whatever, the Eagles tight end. He is one of the few bright spots on the Eagles offense along with Miles Sanders and to a lesser extent Alshon Jeffrey. But poor quarterback limit his production, kind of like Allen Robinson. It doesn't really matter how good or how good you are, how good your potential is if your quarterback sucks. And that's the position that Dallas is in. So, Dallas Goddard. So, with that being said, that leads right into my pick of the week. My pick is Packers 31-14. I don't think it's going to be a game whatsoever. And yeah, what about you, Nick? Who's your pick to win this game?
It's also the Packers. I'm going with them 28-7. Let's see the Packers roll in this game. Going to keep doing it like they were last season. So, or I'm sorry, last week, not last season. So, all right, let's move on to the next game. We're going to 1 second. Phone. 1 second. Next game is the Broncos versus the Chiefs. The Broncos are 4-7. The Chiefs are 10-1. Broncos are coming off one of the weirdest games in recent memory. There's no doubt. That poor quarterback. What was his name?
Kendall Hilton.
Yeah, Kendall Hilton. That poor guy. I give him all the credit in the world. I don't think it's his fault at all, but it just didn't work. And the Chiefs are coming off one of the weirdest games for them, especially a specific player named Mr. Tyreek Hill. Holy crap. Especially that first quarter. Holy crap, that guy is insane. Their offense is unbelievable. But the Achilles heel of this team is definitely going to be their defense. Back-to-back seasons, it's been a struggle for them. And we don't know if it's gonna hinder them in the playoffs. We'll see. But I don't know. What do you have to add to this game?
Yeah, as much as I love Kansas City, as much as I think they're the best team in the league,
Yep.
not the Steelers, it's them. Their defense is definitely going to be their Achilles heel. And think of it like, let's just say if they didn't have Patrick Mahomes, they would have lost to the Texans. I think, yeah, they played them last year in the first round, the Texans in the divisional. And if they did not have a quarterback like him, they most definitely would have lost that game. Like he can't be digging them out of these big holes every single time, and their defense just keeps on continuing to just be so poor.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like they're better than the Seahawks' defense. They're not that bad, but like they're still pretty bad, despite having Tyrann Mathieu and Chris Jones. It's just I don't think it'll affect them personally, but the Chiefs are not unbeatable because of their defense is definitely keeping them back. If that makes sense.
No, you're right.
This leads to my boom, who is Patrick Mahomes. The clear MVP frontrunner. You could argue Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's him. He is leading the league in TD to interception ratio, this is absolutely crazy. I have not seen this since like Aaron Rodgers, but even Aaron Rodgers didn't have it this good. 30-2.
Yeah.
Touchdown interception ratio. I mean, when I remember Aaron Rodgers, I think he had it 28-2. I think that's the NFL record for best in the season. 28-2, and as long as he doesn't throw another interception or he just completely throws more touchdowns, he will have the NFL record for the best touchdown interception ratio. And he also leads the league in passing yards at 3,497. So who is your boom for this week, Nick, and why?
Well, my boom is the other guy, or the guy that is causing Patrick Mahomes to have the MVP type season, or at least one of the reasons that he's having MVP type season. Tyreek Hill. He's having a historic year. He's putting up insane numbers. He put up, I think, 60 points in my fantasy football league. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again. This guy's a freak. He's so fast. He's so agile. He's really good. If you have him,
he's a track star.
Yeah. If you have him, you play him, you start him, and you're happy with him. That's all I can say. Now, on the other side of the ball for the Broncos, they're my bust of the week, the Broncos receiving core. Doesn't matter who you want to talk about. Since Cortland Sutton's gone down, they haven't really had any standout receivers other than maybe Jerry Jeudy, maybe Noah Fant. But, I mean, who's throwing them the ball? Are they going to get a quarterback? that can actually play quarterback back there. I think they will, but doesn't matter who it is. I mean, even Drew Lock wasn't able to really get them too involved this whole season. So we'll see. But who do you have for bust?
Just real quick, I did look it up. Patrick Mahomes right now does have the best TD interception ratio in a single season right now. Granted, he doesn't throw any more interceptions. Tom Brady had the previous record of 28-2. Well, that's when he won his most recent MVP in 2016. So most likely Patrick Mahomes will break that record, but that is really crazy, the 30-2 ratio. But anyway, my bust is the Broncos defense, and the MVP, Mahomes, and everyone else on this insane offense will just completely torch them. It won't even be a game. The Broncos stand no chance. And that leads to my pick, Chiefs 35-10. It's pretty simple, guys. If you watch football, it shouldn't really be a game. What about you, Nick?
No, I agree. Chiefs are going to win this game 28-6. I don't see them scoring a touchdown. I think it's 2 field goals for the Broncos. Chiefs are really good, and it's going to continue, and they're going to keep rolling as the best team in the league this year. All right. Now you lead us on to the next game. Who do we got, Will?
Yeah, and also, I don't know if we said this, but the Chiefs game, that's a Sunday night game. I don't know if we said that or not, but that is the Sunday night football game.
Correct.
So this week we have 2 Monday night football games because of the Ravens and Steelers schedule got messed up. The Ravens were supposed to play on Thursday and the Steelers were supposed to play on Sunday, but the NFL moved the Thursday game to Tuesday and the Steelers game to the first Monday night game. So this is the first Monday night game. Like I said, it's Washington, who is 4-7, against the Steelers, who are obviously 11-0. As I said earlier in the podcast, if you remember, one team needs one win to clinch a playoff spot, and that's the Steelers. If they win this game, they will officially clinch their spot in the playoffs. And I mean, what a better team to do it against to an average Washington team. Although Washington's 4-7, they are tied with the Giants. Although the Giants do have the tiebreaker on them, they are still tied for first in the division. So, yeah, both teams are playing with some fire in them. If the Washington football team wants to hold on to first place, they need to, or at least I guess get ahead. They need to beat the Steelers, and if the Steelers want to clinch a playoff spot and almost clinch home field in the first round bye, they need to beat Washington here. So, what do you think on that part, Nick? Anything to add?
Yeah, the Steelers, they are undefeated. They're a very good team, but I think their record is not indicative of how they're. I don't think they're as good as their record, is what I'm saying.
Agreed. They're a little overrated.
Yeah, they played mediocre teams at best or teams that have been really hurt. And I kind of think the opposite of the Redskins. They're not very good, but they have surprised some teams. They have blown out some teams. They have the potential to put up 40 points a game. You don't know. I mean, we could see that, and I wouldn't be completely shocked. But who knows? Having said that, I still think that this is the Steelers' game, but I think it might be closer than some people think. But I think Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers get this one done. And I have Ben as my boom of the week, actually. He has a lot of targets. He has James Washington, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster. That's just to name a few. He has Eric Ebron. There's James Conner. Claypool, the rookie who's been great, yeah. So I think he's having a great comeback season, and I think it continues here, but it's going to be closer than people think. What do you think for boom? Who's your boom?
My boom, I don't know if James Conner's playing, if it's him, but if it's not, Benny Snell, the running back for the Steelers. He filled in for him because he had COVID or he was on the list last week against Baltimore. And Washington, actually, fun fact, they do have statistically the best passing defense in the league. I think that's mainly because of their pass rush is so good. It forces bad throws and, just poor decisions. But Washington has as a good passing defense. So in turn, the Steelers will need to utilize their run game to win this game, i.e. Benny Snell or James Conner if he plays. But yeah, the Steelers running back I should have just put. Speaking of running backs, Nick, who is your bust for this game?
Yeah, so I hate to say it because I love what I've seen out of him all season. Especially lately, he's come into his own as a great option. I'm going with Antonio Gibson just because of the matchup, just because the Steelers defense is really good. and they've forced a turnover, I think, every week so far this season, which is crazy. I don't know if it's going to be Antonio Gibson that turns it over, but I could easily see something like that happening where he fumbles the ball just because the defense knows what they're doing. Um, uh, we'll see, but I could see that happening easily. Who is your bust?
My boss is kind of like what you said. As much as you love him, Alex Smith. I mean, how can you hate Alex Smith? You
Yeah,
know,
I don't know anyone who does.
he wasn't supposed to walk again, let alone play football. If he makes the playoffs for Washington as a Giants fan, I won't be as mad as if the Cowboys or Eagles made it. I think he'll win the comeback player of the year. But a tough pass rush in the Steelers led by T.J. Watt. Although Bud Dupree is out for the season with an ACL injury, their defense has still got a really good pass rush. And with a below-average offensive line, that just spells trouble for Alex Smith. He might fumble the ball a lot, like you said, Nick. The turnovers, I think they'll come from him with turning the ball over with fumbles and interceptions, maybe even turnover on downs if they go for it on fourth. You know, riverboat Ron. Ron Rivera has been known to be risky with that, and that might be the backbreaker for the football team, Washington.
Yep.
So with that being said, my pick is the Steelers in a very somewhat defensive game, 17-10. As good as Washington is, I don't think they will generate much on offense, but they do have Terry McLaurin, he is very good. But besides that, their offense is kind of below average. What about you, Nick? Who do you got win this game?
I got the Steelers winning it 24-10. I could see it being a lower score. I think it's going to be closer than people think. But we'll see what happens. All right, moving on to our next game. We have the Bills at 8-3 versus the 49ers at 5-6. This is the second Monday Night Football game of the week. It's always fun to get multiple Monday Night Football games. I love that anyways. It gives me
Who
something
doesn't?
to look forward to on Mondays because no one likes Mondays.
Oh yeah.
Both these teams, they're coming off wins. Is one of them going to go on a streak here? The 49ers, somehow they're still in it despite all of these injuries. I think you said earlier you called them the 39ers. I love that. That's hilarious because
Yeah.
it's so unfortunate for them, but they are finding a way to, stay in it and be competitive. We'll see what happens. What do you have? Do you have anything to add to this one?
No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. The 49ers injuries are very unfortunate. Um, they're definitely not having a Super Bowl hangover. I think they would be 8-3 like the Bills if they had their players like Bosa. Sherman just got back, but Jimmy Garoppolo, as average as he is, he's definitely better than Nick Mullins.
Yep.
They just got Raheem Mostert back, but they had Coleman gone. They're just Kittle's gone. How could I forget about George Kittle? They're just so Brandon Ayuk, the rookie from Utah, he was hurt. Like this is crazy, man, with all their injuries.
Yep.
And it's so unfortunate. Like I said, Nick Bosa is definitely the one that hurts the most for 49er fans, as he is one of the best pass rushers in the league. But with that being said, the Bills are obviously the clear front runner to win the AFC East with Brady leaving town and going to Tampa. And I think that will continue with Josh Allen and them boys, with Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley and John Brown and Devin Singletary. The Bills are very good. I could definitely see them making the AFC title game against the Chiefs. That might be a hot take, but the Bills are very good.
Yeah,
Keep it simple.
the AFC is really good this year, and it's fun to see the Bills be one of those teams that's good. And for that reason, I'm actually picking Josh Allen as my boom of the week. He's fun, especially this year, just because he's showing the league that he can throw the ball more accurately. That was his Achilles heel coming into his career. Everyone knew he had the height, he had the size, he had the frame, he had the ability to run the ball, but everyone questioned his accuracy, and he has shown this season with a lot of hard work and dedication that he could learn how to do it, and he's done it. And for a good chunk of the season, he was in the MVP race. And I think he might not be up there yet, but I could easily see him being a top 5 quarterback in 5 years from now. And I think that he's going to have a great game here against a still battered 49ers defense. Who do you have for the boom?
I also have Josh Allen, and I know we watched that draft together. We were very surprised that the Bills drafted up to take Josh Allen. We thought
Yeah.
they were stupid. We didn't understand it, but they have definitely we can see why now. I mean, their first season, I'm pretty sure they won like 6 games, so definitely okay. And then last year they won 9 games or maybe 9 or 10, and they went to the playoffs. Now this year they're the AFC East frontrunners, and hell, they might even make it to the AFC title game. With that being said, like you said, Josh Allen was an MVP candidate at one point in the season. I think he'll definitely make the Pro Bowl. He's just made that great jump from year 2 to 3. And also he has great weapons, which is something he didn't really have last year. I mean, he had John Brown and Cole Beasley, but Stephon Diggs has really completely changed this offense around. He is very, very good. And he's kind of come into his own. He kind of got out of Adam Thielen's shadow in Minnesota, and he's kind of set his own, building his own legacy in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Nick? Who's your bust for this week?
My boss, I'm going with Raheem Mostert. He's been great when he's healthy, and he recently came back. He is healthy now, but the Bills' run defense has been better recently. We thought they were going to be great this season. They were kind of a disappointment to begin with, but now they've been better. So I think that he's going to struggle in this game. Who do you have for a bust?
My bust is Nick Mullins, who I know I picked him last week, but like he's just a below average quarterback at best. And the 49ers are also a run first team. It does help him that Deebo Samuel is back. He is very good, and they can do a lot with the offense with jet sweeps or just like how they could probably make him a running back, like line him up in the backfield. He's a very versatile player, Deebo is. But with that being said, the Bills also have a pretty good secondary with Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and Trey White, Tre'Davious White. So with that being said, I don't think Nick Mullins will be a big factor in this game for the 49ers. And that also leads to my pick. I got the Bills winning 24-14. It should be a somewhat easy game for Buffalo to win, but hey, the Niners just beat the Rams, so you know. What about you, Nick? Who you got win this game?
Yeah, you can never be 100% accurate on any picks with these games. You never know. Having said that, I also think the Bills are going to win this game 20-10. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than what you think, but it's still going to be a good game. But we'll see. All right, moving forward, who do you got?
All right, so we got the last game of the week, Tuesday Night Football, which is something that's actually happened twice this year because I think the Bills played on Tuesday. Yep. We got the Cowboys at 3-8 and the Ravens at 6-5. This is the records may prove that these teams are average, but both of these teams are very well in the playoff hunt. The Ravens are outside looking in, and so are the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are only one game behind Washington and New York. And the Ravens are also one game behind the Colts. I think the Colts have the 7th seed, or the Dolphins. They're also just a game behind them. But this will most likely be Lamar Jackson's return after missing the Steelers game. They almost won that game against the Steelers, which is crazy to me. With that being said, what do you have to add on to that, Nick? With Lamar Jackson most likely returning and these teams desperately needing a win.
Yeah,
what do you got to add?
I think Lamar Jackson coming back is a huge win. If he does, is a huge win for the Ravens. A lot of people were hoping RG3 was going to go back to his rookie year form. He didn't, in my opinion. He had a couple decent plays, but I think they should have just started Trace McSorley, to be honest. But yeah, they're desperate, both these teams, and I think the Ravens are a better team, and I think they're going to find a way to pull this one out. They've got their running backs coming back off the COVID list, including J.K. Dobbins, who is my boom of the week. He's claimed the spot as the lead back on that team, and he's playing against a very weak run defense in the Dallas Cowboys. And I think it's going to be the J.K. Dobbins show for the rest of the way. Who do you have for boom?
My boom is Action Jackson, Lamar himself. Most likely he will play. If he doesn't play, then, well, I don't know who my boom would be then. I guess Willie Snead or Hollywood Brown. But against the weak Cowboys defense, I expect Lamar Jackson to torch them. And they do have a very weak secondary, so although he might have to rely more on his throwing, I don't think that'll be a big issue because their secondary is so bad. And I expect also him to show us the last year's MVP form of Lamar Jackson because he's kind of fallen off a bit. He's still pretty good, but not as good as he was last year. But what about your bust, Nick? Who do you think's in the bust this week?
Yeah, so my bust this week is Andy Dalton. Kudos to him for stepping up when he's been healthy, and I think he's played decent. But he's going against a strong defense this week, and their O-line recently has been really weak. Not what we're used to seeing out of the Cowboys defense or offensive line. And I could see him struggling mightily in this game. Who do you have for bust?
My bust is Amari Cooper, who has been having a pretty bad year. That's mainly the fact that Dak got hurt. But besides that, like you said about the Baltimore strong defense, Baltimore does have a very strong defense, especially with their secondary with Marlon Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
Even with Earl Thomas getting released, their defense is still very good. Right into my pick, and also Nick's pick. We both got the Ravens winning. My pick is the Ravens winning 27-16. 16, excuse me. I don't think this will be a very close game. And the Cowboys are just getting desperate, man. Luckily, they got the Bengals next week, so hopefully they can pull out a win there. But 27-16, Baltimore winning. What about you, Nick? Who you got win this one?
Yeah, the Ravens are going to win this game, in my opinion, 20-10. Maybe Andy Dalton can surprise us, but I don't think so, especially if Lamar Jackson is back out there with a healthy Ravens team. But, yeah, that's what I have.
All right. With that being said, guys, we are just about ready to wrap this thing up. We got our game of the week to watch, just like how we finish it every week. What's your game of the week to watch this week, Nick, and why?
My most exciting game to watch this week is the LA Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals, two top teams in the NFC. Great offense in Arizona versus a great defense with the Rams. It should be a ton of fun seeing Ramsey match up against Hopkins. I think that it's going to be the Kyler Murray show. I hope to God it's the Kyler Murray show, but we'll see what happens. Who do you have? What's your game to watch?
Like I said earlier, I would never expect to say this team in a game of the week to watch, but the Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans, two great running offenses fighting for a playoff spot. The Titans are trying to clinch the AFC South, and the Browns are trying to having the foot ahead in the wild card race in the AFC. Also, both teams will clinch a winning record if they do win this game. And if the Cleveland Browns win, they will have their first winning record since 2007 and their third since they came back into the league after the Ravens. You know, that whole thing where the Ravens became the Browns and the Browns were inactive. Yeah, that was 20 years ago, and they've only had 3 winning records since then. So that's the Browns for you guys. But lastly, this is old school football, like we said. If you're an old head, listening to this and you like to watch older football, then this will be the game for you to watch. Run first, Gridiron, fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. It should be a lot of fun.
With that being said, guys, our record for our picks, I believe Nick was beating me last week, but now I have the one up on him. I have the record of 19-11. Nick is 18-12. And that's because he doesn't believe in Cam Newton. And that's why. He picked Cam Newton to win and the Patriots. He's finally learned the trend this week. He realized, oh, man, if I want to catch up to Will, I got to start picking the Patriots. All right, guys. With that being said, that will conclude Gridiron Talk Week 13, Episode 3. Sorry if it came out a little bit later than usual. But with that being said, hope this is going to be a fun game to watch football. If you're any Steelers fans out there, I don't want you guys bragging that you beat Washington. I better not see that from any Steelers fan if you're listening to this, because the Chiefs would smoke you. And yeah, also this is a week we don't have to hear about Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So thank God I don't have to hear that for a week. With that being said, Nick, do you have anything to conclude on the final thoughts of the podcast?
Nope, I'm just ready for some football, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy your time off of work. If you have the time off of work, time off of school, be safe, have fun, and let's go football.
That's right, guys, and hope you guys are also ready for Christmas if you guys celebrate that, and looking forward to the new year as well. With that being said, stay safe out there, and have a good week, guys.
Bye, everyone.